pleasure to join all of you at this previous seminar. And I want to start off by saying that I'm grateful to Mr. Look for the introduction and for reminding everyone that I did have something to do with the Ministry of Education recently. Because, my title is long, but there's nothing particularly relevant to education in this context. But let me start by, first of all, saying that I find this experience a bit of a deja vu for me. There's something distinctly familiar about it, and the reason I think is in part, I too was a member or participant in the previous seminar many years back, many moons, I don't care to count how many, but the impressions that I formed then, and the friendships I formed then, were very vivid and very alive. And to this day, I have many friends whom I keep in contact with, and these are friendships that I formed at that time. So I hope and I wish for you as well that this event and this experience you're having this week will be an opportunity to forge long-term friendships as well, which are lasting and meaningful ones. I must also say that another reason that this is a bit familiar is because my GP teacher from NJC days is here. I suspect she's grading me on this, so please be kind to me. Although there's a deja vu sense, I think there's something a bit different about this as well. And let me tell you why I think so. One reason why things feel so different today is the pervasiveness of technology. Typically, when you go to events, it's quite common for MCs to advise us to switch off your phones or put them into silent mode and so on. And yet, it wasn't too long ago when such requests were not really necessary. The speakers were usually assured, or at least they thought they were, of an attentive and captive audience because there was no distraction from any mobile devices. And if you think about today, the situation is very different. The humble telephone has evolved, as you can see from the slide, from what you might think is a weapon of self-defense to what looks more like a very slick communication device, which it in fact is today. It's a computer in our hands. So real-time SMSs, tweets, beeps, etc., these are all becoming very much a part of our lives. It's ubiquitous technology. So in coming to this session, I remember also that as I was a student sitting there, I used to take pity on the speakers, thinking, how are you going to sustain my interest for half an hour or 40 minutes? So I've decided to give in to the allure of technology, and I'm going to ask for your help and cooperation to keep this an engaged and a live session. And how do I propose to do that? You've each been given a polling device, and as we go along, I'll pose some questions, and I hope you will all answer. I'm sure they can track all the answers. I think that will sort of inform and engage the discussion further, because I think your views on some of these matters are quite interesting. So let's start on this journey. I want to say that in talking about this topic, I have drawn significantly from my own experience. A lot of it has been in the economic world and private sector world. But clearly we can draw lessons from there and apply them to the broader purposes of this seminar. And we can do that in the course of the speech, but more importantly during the discussion. So let's start. We have 3 quotes there, and I would like to ask you, which of these on imagination do you most identify with? The first is, imagination is more important than knowledge. The second is, I paint objects as I think them, not as I see them. And the third is, he who has imagination without learning has wings but no feet. I think you have some 15 seconds or what to get it going. So please click away. If you're wondering what these numbers are, these are your numbers, so they can track who's answering and who's not. Good. Numbers come up. Well, clearly I can see the numbers. pointed everything. Well, I can just see the numbers, and even before the bar charts come up, clearly most of you have gone for C, which means you would like to have your feet relatively firmly planted on the ground, even as you let your imagination grow. And I think that is a view that I can quite identify with. Basically, we have a spectrum of views here. Some of you think in terms of, I find in particular the response to be very interesting. You paint what you think and what you see. The reason I put these up is to flesh out the spectrum of perspectives that we can have. There are some who feel that we need to be anchored in reality, and imagination gives us some flexibility, but we should not get carried away. There are others who take a quite converse approach. Detach ourselves, let's let our minds be free. And then there are those who are truly artistic. And I thought you might find it interesting to know whom these quotes are attributable to. Can we pull up the next slide? Yeah. So it's quite interesting. It was Einstein who talked about imagination being more important than knowledge. And predictably, it was Picasso who talked about painting and imagination without learning. Joseph Joubert, he's a French thinker. To me, I feel that imagination is vital. It's a very important counterpoint to the very rational, logical way we think. We are trained to think that way very often in the way we do things. But we need imagination because it propels us to new frontiers, into uncharted territories, basically into a realm of new possibilities. And some of these terrains may be inhospitable, meaning we may find that what we are thinking or imagining may not be the most practical. Some of it turns out to be magnificent. But in all cases, the journey that we do, that we take in this process, is a very rewarding one. So the question then is, imagine, but why reimagine at all? Isn't imagination on its own sufficient? The prefix re usually connotes repetition or some kind of remediation. You have to we're often told, don't reinvent the wheel. Or we admonish, please redo this assignment or redo this work or something. So that connotes repetition and remediation. But really, reimagination is not just about repetition. There's more to it than that. You may be wondering, let's go back to the previous slide, please. You may be wondering why we have the series of breads on the top there. It's not because it's morning and breakfast time. I'm sure some of you must have done it. But the real reason is, just to give you a sense, this is the different forms that just a humble toast has taken over the years, and you can find this now. And I'm sure we're only limited by the imagination of the entrepreneurs, and I'm sure you can relate to some of these. And this is comfort food for many. Now, there is a deeper message in this whole notion of reimagination. The Singapore of today is the sum of the cumulative aspirations and imagination and perseverance of previous generations of Singaporeans. They dared to dream and went on to, you could say, exceed all expectations. It was an evolution of a country that was set in a very different era against the backdrop of fast changes in the region. So if you look at this picture, it evokes this. Some of you may not recognize some of these places. I had trouble with that one at the end there. Then I was told it's cold storage. It was a cold storage. This one, I think we don't recognize this and so on. The cars, you can see, are a bit different on our roads now. But I think it brings home in a very vivid pictorial manner how much the place has changed. Today, in reimagining Singapore, the challenge before us is really this. For us to envision what we think Singapore can be in 20 to 30 years. As a society, as an economy, as a nation. And the question I would put to you is, what is the vision of Singapore that will inspire you? What is the mission that you are willing to dedicate yourself to commit yourself with passion, because you believe that this is worth working towards? You can call it strategic planning, creative thinking, or nation building, but fundamentally, the common thread is this. the inner motivation in all of us to look ahead to new challenges, new ideas, and new solutions. I should add that reimagining does not mean that we just discard everything that we have or anything that is from the past. What we are really looking for is a delicate, a careful balance between past models that have worked and new paradigms that we think are relevant. We need to find that dynamic balance. And it's not something that you can keep fixed in your thinking, because as society evolves, as our needs and aspirations change, we're looking for new ways of doing things, and we need to find new equilibrium.